Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the life of Shoeless Joe Jackson, one of the most talented and controversial figures in baseball history. His name is synonymous with both athletic greatness and one of the darkest chapters in sports, the 1919 Black Sox Scandal. But was Joe Jackson truly guilty, or was he an innocent man caught in the wrong place at the wrong time? Let's take a closer look at the untold story behind this baseball legend. Shoeless Joe Jackson was born Joseph Jefferson Jackson on July 16, 1887, in Pickens County, South Carolina. Growing up in a poor family, Jackson worked in a textile mill as a child, and that's where his baseball journey began. He played on the mill's baseball team, and it quickly became clear that he had a natural talent for the game. He was just 13 years old when he first played semi-professional baseball, making a name for himself as a powerful hitter. But how did he get the nickname Shoeless? The story goes that during a game, Jackson's new shoes gave him painful blisters. In a move that would forever mark his identity, he played barefoot, earning the nickname Shoeless from the crowd. Although Jackson disliked the nickname, it stuck with him for the rest of his life. As Jackson's baseball skills developed, he was soon noticed by Major League scouts. In 1908, at just 21 years old, he was signed to the Philadelphia Athletics. But his time in Philadelphia was short-lived. He struggled with homesickness and had trouble adjusting to city life. He was also illiterate, which made the transition to a new environment even more challenging. After only 10 games, he was traded to the Cleveland Naps in 1910, where his career truly began to blossom. By 1911, Jackson had established himself as one of the premier players in baseball. He finished his rookie season with an astounding .408 batting average, a record that still stands as one of the highest ever for a rookie. His bat, famously named Black Betsy, became legendary, and his natural swing was the envy of players across the league. Over the next few years, Jackson continued to dominate at the plate, posting some of the best numbers in baseball history. However, it wasn't until he was traded to the Chicago White Sox in 1915 that Jackson would truly enter the spotlight. Under manager Kid Gleason, the White Sox were a powerhouse team, and Jackson was one of their brightest stars. In 1917, he helped lead the team to a World Series championship, solidifying his status as one of the game's greatest talents. But just 2 years later, in 1919, Jackson's career would be forever tarnished by one of the biggest scandals in sports history, the Black Sox Scandal. That year, the Chicago White Sox were heavily favored to win the World Series against the Cincinnati Reds. But behind the scenes, a group of White Sox players had agreed to intentionally lose the series in exchange for money from gamblers. Jackson, despite his remarkable performance during the series, was one of the 8 players accused of conspiring to throw the games. Jackson's involvement in the scandal has been a topic of heated debate for over a century. On one hand, he played exceptionally well during the series, batting .375 with 12 hits, the most of any player on either team. He also committed no errors in the field, which hardly seems like the performance of someone trying to lose. On the other hand, Jackson did admit to receiving $5,000 from his teammates, a significant amount of money at the time, although he later claimed he didn't fully understand what the money was for. One of the most enduring questions surrounding Jackson's involvement is whether he was aware of the full extent of the conspiracy. Jackson was illiterate, and some believe he may have been manipulated by his more educated and cunning teammates. He consistently denied having played any part in intentionally losing the games, famously saying, "I got no education. I ain't never had none. I couldn't do nothing if I wanted to." Despite his pleas of innocence, Jackson, along with the other accused players, was banned from baseball for life in 1921. After his banishment, Jackson's life changed dramatically. He returned to South Carolina, where he spent the rest of his days running a liquor store and playing in small, semi-professional baseball leagues. Though his major league career was over, he never stopped playing the game he loved. Locals would gather to watch him play, amazed by his continued skill and his dedication to the sport, even though he had been cast out of its highest ranks. One of the most famous quotes associated with Jackson came from a young fan who allegedly approached him after the scandal broke, saying, "Say it ain't so, Joe." This phrase became a symbol of the public's disbelief and heartbreak over the idea that someone as talented and beloved as Shoeless Joe Jackson could have been involved in such a betrayal of the sport. Whether the story is true or not, the phrase has stuck with Jackson's legacy. For decades, Jackson supporters have fought to have his name cleared and his rightful place in the Baseball Hall of Fame restored. Many argue that his performance in the 1919 World Series proves his innocence, and that his illiteracy made him an easy target for manipulation. Others believe that, regardless of his performance, the fact that he accepted money from the conspirators makes him complicit in the scandal. Despite being banned from baseball, Shoeless Joe Jackson's legacy has endured. He is consistently ranked among the greatest players of all time, and his story continues to capture the imagination of baseball fans around the world. Books, movies, and documentaries have been made about his life, most notably the film Field of Dreams, in which Jackson's ghost plays a central role. In the movie, the line, "If you build it, he will come," is a reference to Jackson, symbolizing the deep connection that fans still feel with this flawed but undeniably talented player. Even today, Shoeless Joe Jackson remains a symbol of both baseball's glory and its darker side. His story raises important questions about guilt, innocence, and redemption. Was he a victim of circumstance caught in a scheme he didn't fully understand? Or was he a willing participant in one of the sport's greatest betrayals? The truth may never be fully known, but one thing is certain. The legend of Shoeless Joe Jackson lives on, and his impact on the game of baseball will never be forgotten.